I'm Sarah Bradbury from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you?
Good. How are
Very
you?
well, thanks.
Great. Thanks for taking the time. Maybe you can kick off with a bit of an intro. Coming into The Serpent Queen Season 2, what can audiences expect? What's in store for them?
I think it's an escalation from season 1. There's all the same levels of intrigue, but we're going up a level. There's a great confrontation at the center of it between 3 women, an imagined confrontation between Queen Elizabeth and Catherine de' Medici, and a third outlier who represents, in a way, a kind of cult leader, a modern day, end of days religious zealot. And it's really about 3 highly powerful women who are coming together in pretty explosive ways. So if the first season really tracked a large period of time in Catherine's life, we had Liv Hill playing young Catherine. This one is much more concentrated. This is a confined period of time. And it's a fight for survival.
And I guess casting your mind back, I mean, when you start launching into one of these series, you're never sure how it's going to land with audiences, whether you'll get a season 2, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what first sparked your interest in Catherine de' Medici? And, what do you think it is about this show that really has captured people's imaginations and hungry for more for this next season?
Erwin and I have known each other for 25, 30 years. We're very good friends. We have a wide variety of interests. And I think Erwin would agree that he would never have imagined a royal show would have been what I was interested in. But when he shared the book with me, and another friend of ours, Francis Lawrence, shared the book with me, though it's a very well researched academic book, I saw a thoroughly modern woman. And I was interested by it because everything you heard about her, she's not royal, she's not beautiful, no one falls in love with her. All the things you would attach to the fairy tale version of a princess or queen story were absent. So I felt that I was reading the story about a modern person stuck in this time. And I just thought that was a great window to explore the world. We're all fascinated by these royal stories because they're essentially family soap operas, right? You could be the Kardashians, the Kennedys, the Trumps, whoever. This is just with much bigger dresses and more and bigger houses. But I really saw a window to a modern character, and specifically a modern woman who would be exactly the kind of person who you would think doesn't have a role in these kind of stories. And that stays the same way. I mean, I think I said this before, is that the story of Catherine Medici is really what happens if you take the smartest person in the room and you tell them they don't count because they're not beautiful or they're female or they're whatever it is, whatever prejudice you want. And then watch out if you put that person in the corner of the room.
The other thing is you have to remember, in these hundreds of years, people haven't changed at all.
Yeah.
It's the clothing they wear that's changed, and the houses and the rooms they live in that's changed. So the same psychology applies to Catherine de' Medici as would apply to any contemporary woman in this same situation.
And I guess that brings me to my question, the way you are sort of combining something, that, ostensibly is period drama, but with a real modern feel, whether it's, the breaking of the fourth wall, sometimes the foul mouth language, just kind of changing up slightly some of our, preconceptions about what a period drama really is. And just, this amazing tour de force performance as well from Samantha Morton, which does feel very modern. And there's a lot that I think a contemporary audience can relate to. So how do you kind of combine, period accuracy with kind of throwing in, some of these fictional elements or, making it really relevant to a contemporary audience?
Well, I love this idea of period accuracy, and people feel really passionately about it, that they should all be talking in posh British accents, even though we're talking about French people who weren't speaking any version of French that would be recognizable to us today. There was no central French language. We have preconceptions about what's accurate. And I always want to go in the spirit of accuracy because it was so absurd. I mean, anything I've made up doesn't compare to how ridiculous these people's lives were. It's an evolving idea of what's accurate. No one's around who was there then, right? There are no photographs. One of our best references are paintings, which of course are deeply subjective. My feeling was, and Erwin and I talked about this early on, we're both big fans of the film Amadeus. And their principle was, if you can prove it happened, you're responsible. If you can't prove it didn't happen, you have some leeway, right? So in this series, we have an imagined confrontation between Queen Elizabeth I and Catherine de' Medici, which, of course, by all historians would say never happened. But no one can prove there wasn't a secret meeting. And they shared a lot of letters, and they shared a lot of thematic concerns. So I thought it would be great fun to have them together. But when you shake off the idea that it all has to look the way we used to do period shows, and you start saying to yourself, well, the Renaissance must have had a word for wow. I don't know what it was, but so I can have characters express wow, because I'm sure they felt that way. And I think that way is, it's very important to me that we believe in the stakes of the day. So in the stakes of the day, who you married, who is going to take over the throne, the fact that you could drop dead of a head cold at any moment, all these things were their reality. So we have to respect that. We can't pretend those things don't matter, because then we don't care about the characters. But at the same time, we can watch them experience those challenges the way I would imagine I would experience them. In terms of the fourth wall, again, one of my original ideas was I wanted to take a villain from history who, Ivan the Terrible, whoever these people we know are terrible people, and have them just turn to the camera and say, listen, let me tell you why I did this. Let me tell you, if I hadn't done those things, you'd never have heard of me. I would have been dead at the side of the road, just to make their case. And we can agree or not, but wanted to give them a day in modern court, as it were.
Furthermore, to your question about accuracy, is some years ago, I produced a movie that was based on a historical event, and the screenwriter had taken some liberties, but certainly within the spirit of the event we were portraying, and the director was overly concerned about accuracy. And the screenwriter finally turned to the director and said, look, I just want to bring this to your attention. There's no award for most accurate screenplay. There's only an award for best screenplay.
Good answer. I'm almost out of time, but coming back to Samantha, I've always been a huge fan of her anyway, but what a performance in the show. And also, anytime I hear her speak about anything, she just seems an absolutely amazing human being. What's it been like, particularly working with her? Also having people like Minnie Driver come on as Queen Elizabeth I, and working with this broader ensemble cast. What's that been like?
Well, I think the show has been so well cast. We have an amazing casting agent in London, Jusitn Haythe, they've done a brilliant job. I've always been an enormous fan of Samantha. And I think the reason she's so compelling is that she's sort of depthless, meaning that she's unknowable, so she can inhabit two things at once. She can do these truly appalling things in the spirit of this villain from history and make them completely understandable. There's not that many people who can hold that, who you're willing to watch, because she doesn't do it in a cute way, really. She really expects you to understand why she's doing things she does. And she has great affection for Catherine and for Catherine's underdog status, which I think that's something that attracted her to it. I can't imagine anybody else playing Catherine. And so, I think she's an absolutely astonishing actor.
There's also just no end to her level of commitment.
Absolutely. She's deeply serious about this. It's everything to her. That's what you want. You want somebody who takes it as seriously as you do, who is as committed to Catherine, to this character, as we are. And so having done work 2 years, you're just beginning to sort of scratch the surface of the depth of her talent. She can do anything.
And a quick word about Minnie.
Well, Minnie, I think, is a revelation in this season. I think Minnie she's iconic. And there's something about taking this woman who is such a modern woman, meaning that she's refused to be defined by anything. She acts, she sings, she writes books. Take this deeply iconic modern woman who has set her terms on how she lives and has this sort of incredible charm, and to put her in Elizabeth I, which is another woman we think we know, we think we recognize all the iconic, and there's some magic about putting those two together that you think, wow, I really now get to see what this woman was really like. This is her turning just to the side of all the white makeup and the wig and all this presentation, which was explicitly designed to keep the male gaze at bay. But what Minnie brings to it is that there's this incredible wit, and the wit doesn't undercut any of the seriousness of what she's about, because she plays a deeply serious version of Queen Elizabeth, but there's always with a twinkle, always with a smile. She's somebody who, one of my favorite moments is she makes a lot of mother beheaded jokes, right, about her poor old mom, and she plays it in this, it's funny, but it's incredibly dangerous at the same time, someone willing to make those jokes. And in that sense, she just hit this vein. And in that sense, she is the perfect antidote to Catherine, because her skill set is the one skill set that Catherine doesn't fully have confidence in. So they fit together in this really, I mean, it's one of those, there's a couple of scenes, sort of powerhouse scenes between the two of them. And the math is, you know, it's more than the sum of the parts to watch them interact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. And I cannot wait for everyone else to dive into the Serpent Queen season 2. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
So nice to chat to you. Thank you. Cheers.